Top 5 OCs on the rise after week 2. You can see some pretty exciting offense around the country, but these guys there's going to be some heat on these guys. And one of them I did not include was Garrett Riley, although I think through no fault of his own. I think that, Clemson calls you and says, come here, and then you get there and you're like, oh, well, I thought we had more wide receivers than this. Oops.
You think that's the issue?
I think that's a big issue. And Tim mentioned the quarterback. I think Cade Klubnik's probably fine, but
I mean, dude, he was getting booed pretty badly in the first half last week, and then had a much better second half. But that game did not start off very well. So he's very much a player who I think will be fine and is good. But there's definitely some doubts at the moment and a little bit of impatience as far as the standard and where they've been living now for a few games.
Yeah, well, because it's not just FSU; it's Miami and North Carolina. They're all good too. There's people coming for the Tigers for sure.
You cannot take Deion's "we're coming." You took part of the trademark.
I said that people are coming for it. Yeah. Did he trademark it? All right. Number 5, though, Ben Arbuckle at Wazzu. If you watch Wazzu's offense and what they're doing, it is really, really one of the guys actually Tim mentioned here. Nice synergy that we had. But Ben Arbuckle at Wazzu and what they're doing, he's on the rise. Zach Kittley, who did not make this list because he's been in like 4 of my other OC lists, is not there just because this is about the first couple weeks. And obviously Tech's offense the first couple weeks has not been what Zach Kittley wants. But Ben Arbuckle at Wazzu really doing a great job. They absolutely punched Wisconsin in the stomach last week. And I don't think that is something that happens to Wisconsin all that often, even on down years. Like they usually are kind of in control of things, but man, that was something else that Wazzu did the other night.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kittley thing is something to just pay attention to because I do think there's a little bit of with the Texas Tech fan base. It's just not, and part of that's shuck or whatever you want to point to, but it's not just lighting it up like you thought that it would, but it's still dangerous. And, yeah, he's got some of that to him coming over from Western Kentucky. And so it's an exciting offense. You add a player like Cam Ward who clearly fits it very well and can be super dynamic in that offense, and you have fireworks, and that's what we've seen. And I'm very excited to continue tracking Cam Ward because he's from Texas, and for these first 2 weeks, he's somebody that's in that upper tier, I would say, of guys from the state that I'm paying close attention to for the Earl Campbell Award.
Oh, yeah.
But, Shador, Quinn Ewers, he's got some big-time guys in front of him right now. But, yeah, I mean, they keep lighting it up. He's going to be hanging around that list for sure.
Number 4, Slade Nagle from Tulane. This was a guy who last week went toe-to-toe with Ole Miss without their starting quarterback. And Tulane was in that game, and they have been putting up numbers for the last couple of years. And look at him. Doesn't that look like a guy whose name is Slade Nagle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking Bubba, too, for a second there, but yeah, Slade works.
Slade Nagle, but he is a name on the rise as well for Willie Fritz there in the Green Wave. Really, I keep coming away impressed with what Tulane is doing. They play with guts, and Ole Miss, they probably weren't going to – that was going to be a tough one anyway, but – at no point were they ever out of that game until, they put a little bit distance at the end. Ole Miss did, but they gave the Rebs all they wanted.
Yeah, they did. They're just a good football team. Willie Fritz is a hell of a football coach and his staff.
Yeah, I mean, Louisiana guy, knows that place very well, that area very well, and fun offense. I think Tulane, like you said, gave the Rebs all that they could handle. I was sitting there going like, well, I'm going to miss that pick. I thought for a second there that Tulane was going to win that football game, just couldn't muster up enough in the end. You give Kiffin and company credit. But, yeah, Tulane, been very cool to see the amount of time they've been spending in the spotlight as of late. Like some teams kind of come and go, but they've kind of carried over last year and remained very much in the talk of just college football, and with him and is what they've got at the top, obviously, and their quarterback too. So long as you keep him healthy, we're going to continue talking about Tulane.
Yeah. Number 3, Alex Atkins at FSU. I cannot tell you, if you are not an observer of Florida State, how bad from the third last year of Jimbo Fisher to the first year of Mike Norvell that Florida State's offensive line got. It was so bad. They could not luck their way into guys who could block. It was embarrassing. Alex Atkins has come in and completely flipped that on its ear. And not only that, Mike Norvell calls the plays, but Alex Atkins runs that offense, and it has been very impressive. He is a name on the rise. Watch out for Alex Atkins. The guy is a brilliant football coach. He can build an offensive line. He can build a system. They have got it going there. And Mike Norvell certainly deserves a lot of credit, but the biggest credit that you can give him right now in this offense is hiring a guy like Alex Atkins to help him fix the glaring weakness. They were getting guys who can run. Florida State's always going to have guys that can run. You know, quarterbacks are cyclical everywhere. The good coaches get the good quarterbacks, but they could not stand in front of somebody and keep them away from the skill players. Cam Akers can attest to that. He set some sort of record for like yards after getting hit in the backfield when he was at FSU. So Alex Atkins, another guy on the rise.
Yeah, another guy with ties back to Tulane and Willie Fritz from a few years ago. But yeah, I've been very impressed with just FSU as a whole. Their offense is a lot of fun to watch. I remember when you were bemoaning the O-line and how bad it was. We were comparing it to Baylor, who had a very bad O-line, and trying to say, like, who's worse, like a competition that you don't really want to have. But I don't know what I expected of Norvell, and obviously the first couple of years were kind of I don't know, like you could see things that are good, but you don't know if like it's enough that's going to push it over the top. And man, they pushed it over the top, and they are set up very well right now across the board, and a lot of good coaches on that staff.
Yep. Number 2, Shannon Dawson at Miami. Tyler Van Dyke did not know his left from his right and which way was up last year because the offensive line was really bad. It was his third offensive coordinator in 3 years. And so knowing he was going to have a fourth one in 4 years, they were going to have to find somebody who is really good. They went and got Shannon Dawson. He was at Houston. And if you see what that offense has done the first 2 weeks against Miami of Ohio and then against A&M, who was supposed to be really good on defense, and Shannon Dawson and Tyler Van Dyke and everybody wearing green and orange and white carved them up.
Yep.
But Shannon Dawson's someone that people will be talking about as well, especially if the Canes' ascendancy continues. Tyler, like, Miami may not have him for more than a year because he has done that good of a job.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time at West Virginia. He's bounced around a little bit. When Nick Mullins had his big year at Southern Miss, he was the coach there as well. And then, as you mentioned, with Houston and Dana Holgerson here as of late. So, been around, already had a lot of experiences. And I was shocked by last weekend. I was, man. I mean, I guess I underestimated the Canes, but, just didn't know. Hadn't really seen them. And I just thought A&M looked pretty sharp in week 1. Probably, way too over the top, and as far as how they looked or how I gave them too much credit for that opening game. But yeah, when that started to unfold last weekend, I was pretty surprised by that.
It happened in a hurry too.
They made A&M's probably strongest, most confident position on the team as far as just what are you most confident in? The defense. That suddenly made that a little shakier than it's been for quite some time as well.
There are two things: the pick on the receiver falling down, and the kick return for a touchdown that just set that game on its ear.
Yeah. And he's got speed to work with too that Miami hasn't had in a couple of years, and that's scary, man. And because Miami is a place that collectively, when the city of Miami is excited about it, then the kids in Miami are excited about it, and then the great football players they have. And there's like three. If you asked people what 3 cities they'd like to recruit in, Miami would be on everybody's list.
Yeah.
Like if you only got 3 cities you could recruit in, you can pick 3. Miami is on everybody's list. Now the other 2 might be in question, but Miami for sure is on everybody's list.
What would that be? Los Angeles,
Houston,
New Orleans, Atlanta, Houston. Yeah. That'd be a tough to do like a top 3.
Dallas,
and then somebody would do 7 and be like, you do 3. That'd be really
Tough.
tough.
Houston would be
Houston
the school.
Be above Dallas.
I mean, with all due respect, as far
for
as
sure.
just massive
Dallas,
Yeah, so you'd have to pick between those 3. But I guarantee you, if you gave them the list of the 10 cities, everybody would pick Miami. Number 1, Sean Lewis at Colorado. And look, somebody's going to try to wrestle him away from Deion. He was already a head coach at Kent State, so he knows how to. The questions about can he handle this administratively and blah, blah, like all those little things in the interview he can nail. Can he figure out an offense with a bunch of guys who haven't played together at all in a few months? Yeah, looks like he can do that too. So Sean Lewis is going to be a dude who is much, much sought after when the openings come about. And he is the guy who's everybody's talking about right now when it comes to scheme and offensive system. Yeah, they've got to run the ball better, but he has figured out a way without them being able to do that to win the first 2 games in Colorado's new tenure here. And he will be a hot name. Even if he says, you know what, no, I want to ride this out for a little while longer with Dion, it's only going to make people it's only going to make him want him more, I think.
I mean, yeah, he's still a young dude too. He's like in his late 30s. So he's, a pup by coaching, standards in some ways. And yeah, I mean, they're electric on offense, and look back on it now, and I remember when it was announced that he was going to leave his head coaching position to take an offensive coordinator role, and you're like, what? Like, what? All right, you've been there a few years, but still, what? And, you don't come across those often, but, I mean, he's going to come across a whole bunch more, and, all due respect, a lot of them are going to be far bigger than Kent State. So I think he made the right choice. He's a national name, or is becoming one very quickly. And, that offense is something else to watch here through the first couple of weeks, and will continue to be with what they have at his disposal. So, yeah, absolutely a guy that's rocketing up the national interest list, and will be around for quite some time as far as, looking at coaches that are on the rise and who are going to be guys to look at in the future.
All right, Paul, again, there they are, the list. Washington.